Syracuse football fans looking for another bowl victory for the program. Jerome Smith bowling in from a yard out to open the scoring in the second quarter in the 8th annual Texas Bowl tonight against Minnesota. The Orange defense shutting the Gophers down until the fourth quarter. Terrell Hunt has put them ahead. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Orange in Texas Bowl postgame show as we come on the air shortly before the game is actually over. Syracuse trying to hang on to a 21-17 lead over the Minnesota Golden Gophers. Mark Larson, Dale Drypolcher, and Robert Drummond down on the end. Guys, very non-exciting first half, shall I say, but the second half has really made up for it.
No, that seems to be the problem with bowl games. You know, the teams are such a long layoff, a 3 to 4 week layoff, and they come out rusty. That's expected, but you expect by the second quarter, third quarter, the teams to turn around. But it seems like Syracuse and Minnesota didn't turn around. They were rusty their entire game.
And Dale, this is really seesawed back and forth, especially in the fourth quarter. Syracuse defense had shut Minnesota out of the end zone until the last quarter.
Yeah, and then they struggled at the secondary. They just they had some problems covering people, and they got a lot of mileage out of their tight end, and the quarterback was doing a nice job of finding the receivers. Syracuse secondary, Reddish had a little problem, a little mix-up with the safety, and they let a guy run free, and I think that's one of the problems is Darrell Eskridge not back there, the leader, and I think that was one of the problems. I don't want to lay that all to that, but definitely would have helped if he were back there.
Yeah, one of the problems. The other problem being the special teams kicking game anyway has not been a strength. The Orange ran a fake field goal in the first quarter, and that went for naught. In the fourth quarter, they tried a field goal to tie it up. Was it 40? I think it was about 40 yards from Ryan Norton. Had the distance, but pushed it wide right. So it looked like Syracuse was going to be out of luck. But they got the ball back with about 2 minutes left. Brisley Esteem, the freshman, ripped off a 70-yard punt return, brought it inside the 15-yard line. Syracuse scored a few plays later when Terrell Hunt got in. And with just seconds to go now, the Orange are in pretty good shape for their third bowl win in 4 years.
When you talk about special teams, Dixon had a nice game, too, when he punted, because he got him out of trouble sometimes. That particular special team worked pretty well, but they still had the penalties. Drive me crazy, because they would do one thing right, and then in Hickey, who's an excellent player, and he might have been rusty, too, because he was in and out of some games, but they had some uncharacteristic penalties on top of the ones they usually have. So that made for an exciting first half. And obviously into the second half, more exciting.
Yeah, fortunately, Minnesota has also been penalized in this game more than they have all season long on average anyway. We are going to take a break and continue when we come back. The game will be over. We can show you some highlights, and we'll check in with Brian Sandler down in Houston, Texas, as the Orange wrap up the Texas Bowl. Back after this. Welcome back. The Orange are 2013 Texas Bowl champions. And you are here for the postgame show. Mark Larson alongside Dale Drypolcher and former Syracuse running back Robert Drummond. The Orange allow Minnesota to take the lead in the fourth quarter, but then take it back. Another dramatic victory, and Terrell Hunt, the hero, again, Robert.
You know, what an ugly win. But you know what? It's a win. It's a victory. It's a bowl game. It's one that we can hang up in the Raptors. And Syracuse, as I said before, this is the start of their future going forward. It was good to see them come back and win that way.
Dramatic fashion. It looked like it was over.
I'll tell you, Terrell Hunt did just what he did in the Boston College game. And, I mean, he got some help. Brisley's team gave him some help, gave him some field position. But the man knows when to run. He knows when to pass. And, obviously, I think the quarterback position is pretty solid for the next couple of years.
I would have to agree with that as Terrell Hunt follows his career game with a game-winning touchdown run with just over a minute to play. And Scott Schaefer, in his postseason debut as a head coach, gets the Gatorade bath as the Orange hang on in the final seconds. A couple of Hail Mary passes falling incomplete, one of which looked like it could have been caught in the final seconds. And the Orange hang on to win 21-17, the final score. Orange celebrating another bowl victory, now the third in 4 years and the fifth in the last 6 postseason games for Syracuse. You mentioned the future starts now. For the seniors, what a way to go out. 3 bowl wins in 4 years.
As I said before, I mean, this is something very special for the seniors. This is the last game they'll all play together. You know, I mean, Jerome Smith is gone, Bromley's gone. All these guys will be graduating and never playing this team again. what a special moment, what a special day, what a special time for these guys. It's something they'll always remember. Look at them. I know what they feel like. I've been there myself before, even as a senior. They love each other now. This is a close-knit group that fights and fights and fights every single day, which you guys don't see. As an outsider looking at it, these guys love each other.
And there is a look at some of the final numbers as Terrell Hunt ties Jerome Smith for team-high rushing honors, 74 rush yards for Terrell Hunt, including the game-winning touchdown run with 1:14 left after a 70-yard punt return by the freshman Brisley Esteem, who also caught 5 passes. Dale, he had another touchdown go through his fingertips in the first half. On the other side for Minnesota, their backup quarterback, Mitch Leidner, pretty nice numbers there. Both of his touchdowns came in the fourth quarter. The freshman Drew Wolotarski had his first ever touchdown catch in the fourth quarter. And it looked like it was going to be enough for Minnesota. They got the ball back with 3.5 minutes left and had the game wrapped up.
It's ironic the way that the team that wanted to run the ball comes back and almost beats Syracuse passing the ball almost exclusively.
And you called that. All right, let's take a look at the highlights as this one played out. First half, not a lot of scoring. The Orange on their first possession, first play. Nice little swing pass to Jerome Smith. Takes it up 18 yards for a first down. Terrell Hunt came out hot, guys. He picked up right where he left off.
Well, we talked about the fact that not only was he hot, they dropped 2 or 3 passes. He would have been like 100%, but he looked like he really was throwing with confidence.
Here is Ashton Broyle, a first down catch and run. He fumbled but got it back, but that set the stage for this. Esteem on the running play, and they blew this one dead, eventually gave the ball to Minnesota, an obvious fumble. Then it was David Cobb time, 9 yards on the carry there for a guy who had 1,100 rush yards in the Big Ten this year, but then the Gophers give it right back. Micah Robinson might have scored there.
I thought it could have been a pick 6, but then we had this play.
Yeah, the Orange driving down is chewing the field goal attempt. Ryan Norton not the most reliable, and Charlie Lowe comes up short, Robert.
You know, Syracuse came out very, very flat. So did Minnesota, which made the game very close. But as I said before, as they got going, the game seemed to pick up some. But it's a great win for Syracuse, bottom line.
Sure, just going to say they came up defensively, some big plays. Bromley right there, but they're obviously very, very reticent to go with the kicking game. So that's something on the to-do list for next year.
Well, they'll be happy to see Ross Krautman come back from injury. Terrell Hunt then to Chris Clark. What a catch by Clark.
Great catch by Clark.
Great concentration.
And that was a first down then, down to the 15-yard line. And then Hunt on the read option here takes it to the 1-yard line. And we really saw this in the last 2 games against Boston College and in this one where Terrell had a lot of success. Next play gives it to Jerome, and he did the rest.
You know, he reminds me a little bit of Donovan McNabb. Used to use that quarterback keeper and little draw play. But here was Smith fighting his way up. Just got the ball over that first part of the white line. That's all you need to do it, and he got it there.
With all the reviews, they did not review that one, which I had a hard time believing. The Orange defense, again, shutting down the Gophers, extending their streak to 12 straight quarters without an offensive touchdown. Looked like they had one here, but a push-off called on Drew Wolotarski. He and Brandon Reddish really had a battle.
They did, and he's a big kid, and Reddish had his hands full.
So the Gophers settle for a 41-yard field goal near the end of the half from Chris Hawthorne, and it was 7-3 Syracuse, 180 total yards, and only 7 points to show for it. Syracuse having a hard time finishing those drives. The Gophers also coming up, with just 3 points. And their offense looked very containable, Robert.
You know, not a great stat day, but as I said before, they both have been off 3 to 4 weeks. You know, so you're going to get rushed with that layoff and that long amount of time being off. But they pulled it together, they got the victory, and that's at the end of the day, that's all that matters. That's all that counts. You know, it'll help in recruiting, it'll help in everything going forward. As I said before, this is the start of Syracuse's future.
All right, so 7-3 at halftime. Again, not the most exciting bowl game I've ever seen in the first half, but boy, did things pick up in the second half. As you mentioned, Robert, both teams kind of started to feel it a little bit, got into somewhat of a rhythm. Again, Terrell Hunt going to the air and finding Jared West, who came back from injury in this one. Jerome Smith breaking off a nice run here. Smith 74 yards rushing on the day. And that's Syracuse on 4th and 9 going for it again. not a lot of confidence in the kicker, and it paid off here.
And you know what? Sometimes you have to do that, and they really don't have confidence. And Terrell Hunt did a nice job. That was a broken play, and he made something out of it. You can tell him what a great job he did. Knows just where he's got to go. Dives over that first down line.
What a promising future we have with this young man. The one thing I've seen over the last 2 games with Terrell Hunt is the simple fact that he shows composure. He doesn't break. He doesn't get rattled. He just goes out there and performs. He doesn't make mistakes that much. And his teammates rally around him, and they see that because your quarterback's always your leader. So as long as that young man is at the helm, Syracuse will be fine.
And he is strong enough to be able to run this one in on the quarterback draw. That finished a 15-play drive for Syracuse. They went up 14-3, but then first play of the fourth quarter, there's that pass defense.
Yeah, they struggled on that one. There was some mix-ups and no help from the safety. And then this big quarterback, he's struggling back there. They finally got him down on the ground. It was a big play.
So they fail on the 2-point conversion. Minnesota down 14-9, but they get the ball back and to the air again, and wide open, Reddish chasing Wolotarski.
Yeah, that was the one where I'm sorry, Robert, with a mix-up with the safety on that.
This will be a great learning experience for Syracuse once they get a chance to relish this game as they party tonight and have fun. But once they go back and look at the tapes, they'll be able to find out all the things they did wrong, and what a great learning experience, because this will help them going forward, because they need to get better and they need to get better fast.
Well, Ryan Norton had the distance there, but just pushed it a little bit to the right. And with under 4 minutes to play, the Orange gave the ball back to the Gophers. Didn't look good, but they stopped Minnesota. The defense stepped up again, and then watch Brisley Esteem. The flashes here from the freshman. Can't wait to see how this guy develops. He goes 70 yards. Only the punter kept him out.
When it comes time for you to make plays as an athlete, you make plays. And this young man went out there and made a great play and put Syracuse in position to do this right here.
And here it is, 3rd and 8. Nobody open. Blitz came, and Terrell Hunt coolly stepping up, wide open. He scores. The Orange go ahead, and then they hang on in the final seconds. A couple of Hail Marys fall incomplete, and Syracuse wins again in the bowl season for the 5th time in the last 6 tries. 21-17 the final score. Look at the balance from Syracuse offensively. 208 rushing, 188 passing. 3rd down conversions, 50%. Everything's pretty good there.
We talked about the Boston College game, and Terrell Hunt and company did just what they did against Boston College. Good balance. We're able to not just become one-dimensional. And the passing game, they did a lot of those quick hitch passes, Robert, very effective. And their outside receivers did a nice job of blocking. So that passing yards, a lot of that goes to the outside receivers, helping not only catch the ball, but also to block, which I thought was much improved from the beginning of the year.
A great game. And even coming out of training camps, when teams start their first game of the season, you always see there's rust on them. Even the second game, this rusty because it's going through training camp. You're hitting each other over and over again. When you get a chance to hit another opponent, it's new to you. So when you go out there and hit this other opponent like they did in this bowl game, it was new to them. So once they got into the flow of the game, they got better. But as I've been in with myself, you come out rusty, but your heart, desire, and everything takes over, and you just start to play the game. And look what Syracuse did.
And probably didn't hurt that the last time they were kind of in a situation like that against Boston College, they were able to come back, drive down the field, and win it. And so they were pretty cool in that situation.
That's the confidence factor. We did this before. I'm sure it wasn't quite like no problem. But,
but it helped. They started from the 14 also.
Absolutely, yeah.
Been there, done that.
Yeah,
it's huge, as in life, it's a huge thing in football. You've been there before, so you're calm, cool, and collected. And look what Syracuse did. Yeah,
it's fun to see Terrell Hunt kind of growing up and growing with confidence, and you almost can't wait for the season opener next year. But there's still some time to relish this one. Trophy presentation, a little celebration time, and ahead here on the postgame show, we'll hear from the victorious head coach Scott Schaefer and the MVP, which we presume to be Terrell Hunt. That's still to come here. Stick around. More postgame coming up right after this.
The Orange in Texas is sponsored by your local Toyota dealers. Check out Toyota's amazing full line of vehicles today. Toyota, let's go places. Upstate University Hospital. Knowing changes everything. And by Summit Automotive. We've got your truck at summitcars.com.
Orange coach Scott Schaefer accepting the 2013 Texas Bowl champion trophy, sharing it with Mackie McPherson, one of the outgoing seniors, Jerome Smith, Jay Bromley, Dyshawn Davis, Spruill getting in there as well. The defense really holding things down for the most part, and in the final seconds when it counted. So Syracuse doesn't go to Texas very often for the postseason. Last time they were down there, the 1960 Cotton Bowl, which of course they won to clinch the national championship of the 1959 season. So 2 times in Texas in the postseason and 2 victories. This one in dramatic fashion again. And Terrell Hunt, the redshirt sophomore who was making his 10th career start, ends up scoring the game-winning touchdown with a minute to go.
Remember we talked about the quarter? Oh, might be a quarterback controversy after that first game, and then obviously things have turned around a lot since then. He's matured. I said in the pregame show, one of the things I like about him is his leadership. That's as good as his passing and legs do him good stead in these games. It's his leadership. I think he goes in there and instills a lot of confidence. We got him for 2 more years.
Yeah, and you know what? He had 91 carries in 11 games coming into this one. He had 15 more. So in the last 2 games, 32 carries. I think they found something, Robert, in a guy that they just need to let him create.
They found something special in this young man. As I said before, he holds his composure very well, even when he makes a mistake. The best feeling in the world is to be able to stand up there and win the MVP trophy. But I can tell you this, from someone who won the MVP trophy myself in the Hall of Fame Bowl, you couldn't do it without your other teammates, because your other teammates are around you and they allow you to be able to go out there and be the athlete and man that you are. And Terrell Hunt is the type of person who I feel and vibe is that type of person by how he performs and how he goes out there and commands that stage once he's on that field. We have a great quarterback going for the future.
Yeah, and I think that's probably the most surprising thing with Terrell is that we've seen that. We knew that, we thought he was probably a more mobile quarterback than Drew Allen, the Texan who started the season, ironically enough. And we didn't think he was as good a passer as Drew Allen, but we didn't know what a leader this guy was going to become, and you made that point.
Yeah, I really like what he does and how the team responds. I also got to say, one of the things that I criticized early was the offensive line, and I think they have made steady improvement this whole season. They was some pretty good players there for that Minnesota defensive line, and for the most part, they did a good job. He had time to pass. He didn't get dumped. I thought the offensive line has really been impressive in terms of how they've improved, and kudos to the offensive line coach.
Yes, unfortunately, they're going to lose Mackie McPherson, of course. Sean Hickey, likely. We'll see whether or not he decides to go to the NFL or not, but they will have Terrell Hunt coming back, and that's a good thing. A guy who can run this offense, who has a lot of confidence, and who really has become the dual threat in the last couple games that we thought. Still has some weaknesses, obviously. What do you see, Robert, that maybe he could work on to get better at?
He still has a lot to learn. He still has to learn how to throw the deep ball with a lot more touch. But as far as his leadership, as far as his character, as far as his charisma, standing here in the pocket, being able to direct this offense, he's on pace to be great with that. You know what? And they can build off that. With these young guys coming back and the talent they have coming around them and some of the recruits that are coming in, Syracuse looks good going towards the future.
They got to go out and find him some receivers, because lots of times he'll make the pass. Even some of his vertical passes not that bad, but get dropped. Now, he does have a problem, as you said, with the touch, Robert. But, boy, if they had some receivers who could make some spectacular catches, he'd be there. Right now, they do okay, but they really need some spectacular receivers.
Yeah, Ashton Broyld went out of the game, threw a little bit of a temper tantrum. We didn't see him come back. Not sure if he was hurt or if that was a coach's decision. He would probably be their most dynamic receiver, but, Bristly Esteem has the talent to do that. Maybe still has to work on being able to look the football in. There's Terrell Hunt's numbers for this one. 19 of 29. The big number, no interceptions. Again, no mistakes, not killing the team with those things. The rushing attempts, again, up. Averaging 16 carries his last 2 outings. He scored 2 touchdowns rushing. In this one, he scored another touchdown against Boston College on the ground. So, you got to use the guy's abilities, and obviously he's a very good runner.
The young man is learning. He's not losing games for Syracuse, and by that I mean he's not throwing interceptions, as you said. He's not fumbling the ball. He's basically throwing it away when he needs to, and he's throwing out of bounds when he has to. So that's a good thing for Syracuse, and that's something that you really can't coach. It has to be innate, and he has that. He's got very good quarterback skills, and he's definitely going to be good for them going towards the future. Once they surround him with the weapons that we need to get to that next level, and by that next level, I mean beating the Florida States, beating the Clemsons, beating the upper-tier ACC teams, we'll be just fine. I think this recruiting class, I think this going forward, the Syracuse is fine. As I said before, it was that last Boston College game that started it for Syracuse.
And it's funny, you think about the momentum he has right now, and you mentioned Florida State, probably going to lose, Jameis Winston will have to come back. Taj Boyd will be gone from Clemson. Chase Reddick will be gone from Boston College. All of a sudden, Terrell Hunt, is looking like one of the better returning quarterbacks in the ACC.
And you got to look and see what this does in the ACC for recruiting, too, because this opens up those receivers we're talking about that they might need.
Yes.
This gives you some down south guys there where you look at those teams, they're stocked with people from south of the Mason-Dixon. Doesn't mean you can't find somebody from up here, but that's where a lot of that speed comes. And now you're in the ACC, you won a bowl game, it can't hurt.
And you won a bowl game in Texas, which, by the way, has some pretty good high school football players, including quarterback Mitch Allen, who decided not to come to Syracuse. And hopefully he was watching, and maybe he will regret that decision after seeing what Syracuse did this year without him. All right, let's head down to Houston, Texas now and listen in. The press conference for Minnesota about to begin.
First of all, I congratulate Syracuse and Coach Schaefer. They've out-executed us. And the game, I always say, comes down to execution. And players and their kids did a better job executing than we did. I feel bad for our kids and certainly our seniors. They've really moved our program forward, and we continue to grow from last year to this year, and we just need to continue to improve. And certainly the loss is very disappointing, and I feel bad for our kids, but again, I congratulate Syracuse. So with any questions, I'll certainly answer. Yes, sir.
I'm very interested to know about this. Obviously, one of the things you hear a lot in the bowl season is conference versus conference. You hear SEC 7 titles this and all that. I want to know how you approach this with your team. Do you talk about trying to carry the banner for the Big Ten? Or do you talk about this as just a game between Minnesota and Syracuse? Or do you not talk about it at all?
Well, we talk, where we're at right now, we talk about, I've always learned that the only thing you control in life is the people you work with. You can't control everybody else and feelings of that nature. You got to concentrate when you're where we're at in our program. You got to concentrate on those kids and how we play. And, I'll be honest with you, I think the only thing in life, I don't pay attention to all those things. I grew up coaching high school football all the way through. And the most important thing you do is concentrate on your people and what you can control. And the rest takes care of itself. There'll always be opinions. But, again, the only thing I care about is that, and what I should care about is the young men that I'm working with and trying to make their lives better, not only in football, but also off the field later on in life.
Go ahead.
Mortel kicks that booming punt and just has been good on special teams. How frustrating just to give up that 70-yard return right there?
Well, it's always it's always frustrating, but give them credit. They, he punted the ball great, and we probably out-punted our coverage, and but you tell him not to punt it very good. I mean, then you think about maybe we should have punted out of bounds, but you do that. Then you got a chance of shanking it. So we punted the ball well. They executed better than we did. And, it's, as coaches, you go back and go 100 times, what we should have done. But, again, give them credit. They executed on that particular play better than we did.
Did you have a follow-up?
And on Hunt's touchdown scramble, you guys have been effective on blitzes. Did on that one, did it just kind of break the right way for him?
Well, we had a good blitz call. Actually, there's one guy, we had a couple guys come on free, actually, and jumped up. He tucked the ball and made a play. So give him credit. I mean, we had people there to make the play, but he did a good job of sliding right through. So, again, that comes down to execution, and he executed better than we did. We had a chance to make the play, but we just didn't.
In the front?
Well, we had a chance to catch the ball, and but again, we didn't. And Drew played well as a freshman, had a good ball game, no question about that. And then Mitch played outstanding game and got us in a good flow, certainly in the second half. And I think he played his guts out, played hard, and gave us a chance to win. Even towards the end, he gave us a chance to win, and did a great job for a redshirt freshman.
Follow up here?
Yes.
Back over here, sir.
When
Well, I think anytime, you play a team like them and the quarterback, and same thing we do, is the quarterback's that extra guy. And it's the guy that's hard to count for. And it doesn't matter what you do, you got to get an extra guy. And then when you do that, he did a great job of checking the bubble screen. You get people down in there, and he's seen that, then they check the bubble screen. Then you walk out on the bubble, and then they hit you with the quarterback run. So it's, good offensive scheme. They did a good job of executing. And so we worked on all that, but they executed very well.
You have a follow-up? All right, sir.
Coach, talk about whatever adjustments that you made in the second half of the running game. Seemed like David was able to move a bit, was able to flow more better in the second half.
Well, I think the biggest thing we did, we try to mix it up a little bit, keep them off balance with throwing and running the ball. And I think when you can do that, you got a better chance keeping them off balance. And then I think we executed a little bit better up front. And then, he made some good runs. But I think we played much better in the second half. The only thing that we haven't done all year is have those little penalties, which end up being big penalties. And we had some of those that we haven't done. That hadn't been characteristic for us. And so that was disappointing. But, he did a good job, and the offensive line played better in the second half.
Did you have a follow-up, sir?
Yes. David finished up a pretty strong freshman year. Talk about his contributions and what you expect for him in the years ahead.
David Cobb?
Yes, sir.
Okay, is that he's going to be a junior. Yeah, so that's got him to a freshman, but still, he's done a great job. Very proud of him, and he had a great year, and he's got great vision, and he's got a great future ahead of him, and he continues to gain confidence, and we're excited about that. There's no question about it. I think we start one senior on offense, so pretty young football team, and we'll learn from it, and got to keep getting better.
MK?
Well, I think that, it's like you see in pro football, you see in college football, and get a great punt off, and then, you're trying to get down to cover it, and there's a lot of space in there, a lot of room. And, we had a chance. We had a couple guys that had a chance to take him down. But, again, he made a nice play, made a good vertical cut, and the seam opened up, and he made a good play. But I think, that's the toughest thing. You want good punts in critical situations. And but sometimes when there's too much space in there off a great punt and your coverage can't catch up to it, it gives you problems. And
what's the secondary play on that? Because clearly you're trying to get field position, and getting that punt gives you the great field position. I guess from a coaching perspective, what are you looking for your guys to do in terms of coverage to make sure you maximize the field position your punter gave you there?
Well, the biggest thing we got to cover better, we got to get down the field. We're in spread punt, and they tied one of our guys up, which is good execution on them. And you just got to make sure when you kick the ball like that, you got to have great coverage. And we've been good in the kicking game. But, as I got to look at film, that'll help me a little bit. But, when I go back and look at it, I can tell you that, somebody stepped out of the lane or something of that nature. But, again, I don't want to take anything away from the kid from Syracuse. He made a good play.
All right, we're right over here, and then we're going to take two more after that. So we're going to go here. Kaiser.
Talk about the thought process behind coming down on the field for the second half?
Well, it's just like anything else. And you all know all the history and so forth. Is that I made a decision. I felt that we need a little bit of pickup. I talked to a couple of the coaches, and we weren't maybe as zippy as we've been, and I made an instinct decision. And whether it's right or wrong, I did it. And that's part of those seniors bust their tail end for me, and the team's busted their tail end for me all year. And if I can go down there and give them a lift, Coach Kill do anything we can to get a win. And I felt I needed to do that to help. And I don't know if that helped or not. Evidently it didn't, because we didn't win the game. But I talk about giving great effort and fighting through things, and I owed it to those seniors and our football team, so I did it.
You have a follow-up, sir, all through in the front? And I'll take one more after that.
Was Philip shaken up in the first half, or were you planning to go to Mitch early if he needed to?
Well, we're going to play both of them, and we played Phil the first couple, and then we brought Mitch in, and he got, we're trying to find a rhythm, something to get us going. And Mitch had practiced well over the last 2 or 3 weeks, and he did a great. He went in and felt like he's in a good rhythm, and we got him going, and just for whatever we moved the ball with him, so we stayed with him.
Last year, heartbreak here in Houston, same thing 1 year later. How frustrating is it to do so much but not be able to finish it out both years?
Well, I think that's part. I mean, I know a lot about this. I know a lot about life. And, all you can do is give your best effort and how you come back as a team and so forth. We got better as a team. We didn't win, and we're certainly disappointed in that. But it's part of life. There's a lot of people, got a lot of situations where you have to battle back. And, we'll find out. I mean, that's part of it. We're a football team that's trying to get established again and keep moving it forward. And we've done that. And we just got to keep doing it. And then sooner or later, things fall your way. I've been through it before. So you just keep hammering away, and that's all you can do. And, I love those kids in there. They've worked their tail end off. There's a group that's been through a whole lot of adversity. They've handled it very well. They've helped me out. We've helped each other, and that's part of it. That's called life. And so we'll get through it, but I'm not going to lie to you. We're all disappointed. You're supposed to be.
Any more questions for Coach Gill? Okay, thank you. Coach, thank you. We have,
I think somebody had a cut. I don't know.
I have one quick one.
Sure.
Minnesota graduates only 8 seniors, I believe, from their 2D, if I'm correct. I looked at the 2D during the game. So obviously you got a very young football team, Coach. How does Minnesota get better in 2014?
Oh, we got better this, from last year. This bowl helped us a bunch, and we'll get better from here. Even though we didn't win the game, that's our job. And where our program is at when we took over the job and where we're going, we're headed the right direction. There's no question about that. Redshirt freshman right there. We played 2 freshman wide receivers. We lost our most productive receiver to an ACL, about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and he was a senior. So we do have a young football team, and the only way you learn sometimes is not always by winning. You got to learn the hard way, and and we certainly learned the hard way. But I know these kids move forward. There's no question about that, and we are young. You're right on that, and that's why you get discouraged, but you're also excited about the kids that are going to come back and where we're headed and where we're going. Thank you. Appreciate it.
We're joined by quarterback Mitch. Pretty hard guy not to root for. Jerry Kill, Minnesota head coach, now 0-4 in bowl games. He talks about facing adversity. He's faced a lot of that.
Yeah, he's had some problems, and he said he came down out of the coach's box, a place where he had been most of the season because of his condition, and he just said, I owe that to the seniors. I got to give a tip of the hat to that guy.
I don't know the coach personally, but sitting here listening to him, the one thing that he really said to me that stuck with me, because I was a player, like those players on that field myself, was games like this are life lessons. You learn more from losing than you ever do from winning, and this team will be better in the future going forward. They're a young team. They'll learn from getting more mature. They'll learn from that burn inside they have right now for losing this game, but you know what? Come next year, they're going to work that much harder. Not even next year, and trust me, in spring practice, they're going to work that much harder because they know what the bite of losing a game feels like, and they don't want that anymore.
Yeah, and just like the Orange, their best offensive player is going to be a junior next year. David Cobb, you heard him mention David, 18 carries, 91 yards in this game, so Syracuse, the streak is intact. It's the only team in the FBS, Division I football, not to allow a 100-yard rusher this year. Cobb came in with all sorts of credentials, and he ripped off some pretty good chunks of yardage, but didn't get up to 100.
As Robert said, he's a moose. He's like 5'11", 235. This is not just a little guy that's going to go down with an arm tackle. And he took some hits, but he just kept pushing along.
He's got that pedigree. He's from Killeen, Texas. What football is like in Texas. And this kid ran downhill. This kid has quick feet. The first tackler usually doesn't bring him down. He runs with heart and he runs with desire. He's going to be a good running back for them in the future.
He might have gotten 100. See that one that was called back because of the penalty there. So he really stretched him. But Syracuse did a great job on this kid.
Yeah, 5 yards a carry. Nothing wrong with that as he gains 91, but just could not get over the 100-yard mark. And if Minnesota had been able to get a first down on their last drive, he probably would have, but that's the way that goes. So David Cobb, fall short of the century mark. Now, another bright spot for Minnesota in defeat was their quarterback, a redshirt freshman, Mitch Leidner. And we, in the pregame show, we talked about Philip Nelson, who was their starter. He only played a series or two, and then we didn't see him the rest of the game.
No, that Leidner really impressed me. When they had him in the game, he made all the right calls, made all the right decisions. I mean, I was surprised to find out he was a redshirt freshman, because you usually don't, you're really not seasoned at that point. You make a lot of mistakes. But this young man went out there and played a great game, and if not for a few drop passes on his receivers' parts, they could have possibly won that game and had some much bigger plays. So as I said before, with the running back like Cobb and Leidner back there, this team looks good going in the future.
I'll tell you one thing: the kid doesn't like to lose. When he came off, came off the field, he was talking to people, and he was excited, and that's you want to see that in somebody. So they got a good one right there in him.
Yeah, it's a Minnesota native, so homegrown product. Mitch Leidner, supposedly the better running quarterback. He had a 151-yard rushing game this year against San Jose State. Threw for 205, a couple of touchdowns in the fourth quarter. All career highs for this redshirt freshman. Also ran for 24 yards on the ground. And so, here's another guy from Minnesota. If you're a Gopher fan, a good sign for the future.
A 6'4", 235-pound quarterback. He's got the size, and he definitely has the arm strength to be seen today. As I said, Minnesota definitely has a quarterback for themselves, as we do, going towards the future for them.
He made a couple of nice touch passes too, and the one right at the very end of the game this one was very good because he had a beat, but the one at the end of the game extremely scary because he put the ball right where he had to put it, and just luckily for Syracuse,
got dropped.
It was incomplete. Yes, right, it got dropped. Good, because it went right through the defensive back's hands.
Yeah, right through both sets of players' hands, and this is the two-point conversion that turned out to be the last point scored by Minnesota. You look at Mitch Leidner's numbers, and again, not terribly impressive if you just look at it, but in the fourth quarter is where a lot of those passing yards came, both touchdown passes. They had gone 13 straight quarters without an offensive touchdown. And here a redshirt freshman led them to a couple of big scores and had them in front with 3.5 minutes left.
I like how this young man took command of the game when he was out there on the field when he had his chance to play, because they were switching quarterbacks, platooning in the beginning. But once this young man went in there, he had a desire to win. You can see by how he commanded all his receivers and his players to move where they wanted them, and he put them in position to make plays. They just didn't make enough plays, which is good for us.
Definitely good for Syracuse, as they are bowl champions again after celebrating the last two Decembers, or two of the last three, rather, at the Pinstripe Bowl in New York. Now they're down in Houston, Texas, celebrating Texas style. I guess everything's bigger down in Texas, so we can assume there will be a nice celebration before they hop on the plane, and a happy trip back here to Syracuse. They went down. They spent Christmas down there in Texas. A lot of those guys away from their families, but they went down with a job to do, and they got the job done in the final minutes again.
And they won the rodeo, so we knew they were going to win.
That's true.
They won the rodeo.
So the Rodeo Bowl champion is now 6-1 in the actual Texas Bowl. So if we ever go back to the Texas Bowl, now we know that that's an important thing to focus on. You talk about what Syracuse will lose and what we'll have coming back. What do you think about what their situation will be next year as they try to retool this roster? As I said before, me personally, I know, because I've been through the experience myself as a former player for Syracuse. You sit there and you have that heartfelt feeling of winning a bowl game, and especially when you get the MVP, like Terrell Hunt did. But at that point, it's not about you as an individual, it's about an entire team. So you want to break that trophy up and give it to every single player on that team, because that's what it's about. It's a team, it's a family, it's a unit. You're with those guys every day. You're in class together, you're practice together. They have to retool. The seniors right now, it's bittersweet. They got that victory, but you know what? It's a loss because they'll never be able to play with their family again. They can see them, they can call them, they can possibly play with them in the NFL, but never again as a Syracuse Orangeman. It's a heartfelt thing to play for the Syracuse University Orangemen. Trust me, I know it, and I call them Orangemen because that's what I was. They're the Orange now. We'll let you do it. They're the Orange now, but they're the Orange men to me, and they're always in my heart, and I always have the desire to play with those guys, and I know what those guys are going through right now. But they're going to enjoy it tonight. They'll be sad afterwards. Yeah, you can do it. The guy calling the game would drive us crazy. Dale, you went through and counted as far as guys. Guys who have contributed, and I don't mean just got in games. I talk about contributed. They have 40 guys coming back that I think have done a nice job this year. One of the things I like is even if they lose Hickey, they have a lot of offensive linemen who get a lot of experience. There's some young people up there. Robinson's a redshirt freshman. They got a lot of people. Emmerich, the guy who was going to replace Mackey, he played in games this year when Mackey got hurt for a half. And so they've got a lot of experience. And the offensive line was the real, I thought, question mark this year. I think they got so many guys coming back. I mean, certainly going to miss Mackey, but they've got a lot of people there
there to build around that offensive line, which is a key.
All right, head coach Scott Schaefer has reached the post-game room down in Houston. Let's head to Reliance Stadium and listen in on the Orange Victorious presser.
Coach, the floor is yours, sir.
Okay, great. Well, first off, appreciate you y'all hanging around. Great to see y'all. Great game by both teams. You know, the thing that was great about that game, you had two great conferences, Big Ten, ACC football, going head-to-head, and what I think is one of the most underrated bowl games out there. And we just appreciated the opportunity to come to Houston, Texas, and be part of the Lone Star State for a few days. And at the end of the whole deal, just really excited and proud of our kids at Syracuse. You know, we had 9 graduates out there playing today. Kids already got their degree. A lot of people don't know a lot about Syracuse with the football program. Coach Boeheim's done an unbelievable job with the basketball team. But we want to build this tradition up to where everyone in this country understands what we're all about. And the thing we have is we have great student athletes, kids that go to class. We check all their classes, don't we?
Yeah, definitely.
And I just couldn't be prouder, more proud. I did check the grammar on that, and prouder is right, Mom. But more proud is righter, I guess. But just so happy and pleased to represent Syracuse University. Strong senior class, a senior class of resilient young men. They got knocked down a few times this year, against some great teams in the ACC. One of them's going to win the national title, in my opinion. And the kids have learned so much from this season, and I just couldn't be happier with the results today. It would have been nice if we could have just knocked them out, won by 17 or something, but that's kind of not our way this year. So I think it was appropriate that we won in that fashion. And this young man on our left is really representative of what we are as a program. Young man from New York, stayed in New York to come and play at Syracuse. Wasn't the prettiest guy in the world on the field yet, but he's getting prettier by the minute. He is handsome, though. My daughter told me that. And I really couldn't be happier with the way you played today, partner. And with that, any questions?
All right.
I'm really interested to hear what you think about this. You kind of offhandedly said, ACC team, national champion, just a moment ago. Am I correct? I'm wondering, because, you hear during bowl season, conference versus conference, that's what seems to be one of the main themes every single year. When you prepare for bowl games,
yep.
In a game like this, do you talk with your players that not only are you representing Syracuse, you're representing the ACC, or do you tell them that it's just Syracuse versus Minnesota?
No, we do. The thing we talk about first and foremost, it's about the men that put the pads on. It's a player's game, and the brotherhood we have. We promise each other a few things. We did this morning in our team meeting, right?
Definitely.
And, the great thing about football is it's an opportunity to make memories within your extended family, and that's what football is. Any team that's worth a hill of beans is going to go out there and play for one another and not the self. We want to be extremely unselfish team because those are the lessons that take you far into the future as you become a dad, a husband, somebody that's given back to society, and we take that stuff serious at Syracuse. And it starts with our team. But then you extend it to the conference. And we do. We have a lot of pride. Do we like to get our butts kicked by Florida State and Clemson? Hell no. We finished in our division behind those two teams. But there is a sense of brotherhood in the conference, too. We're happy to be part of that ACC conference. Dr. Gross did a great job making sure we could hitch our wagons to that conference at a time where I think we hit that wave in a timely manner, and I really believe within the next 10 years it'll be us in the SEC. I really do, and I'm from Big Ten country, and I love the Big Ten, always have. But I think when you look at the demographics of what the ACC conference is all about. You look at all the major awards that were won this year from individuals. We swept it. ACC swept it from the Heisman on down, Nagurski, everything. And I know everybody talks about the SEC, but the ACC is on the rise, and under the leadership of John Swofford, our commissioner, that had great foresight and ensuring that the ACC was in front of the curve. I think because of his forcefulness, I think you're going to see a national champion in Florida State and representing the ACC conference. And we're just happy at Syracuse to be a part of it, and we look forward to getting to a BCS game here as soon as we can.
Next in the back, and then you, sir.
Coach, you mentioned, and Terrell, you can answer this too. And you mentioned Terrell getting prettier by the day. What are some of the things that you've seen Terrell develop on from the beginning of this season to this type of game where he really put it together, not only on the ground but through the road?
Right. Well, his intestinal fortitude, his guts, are what make him. He was raised by some really strong people that were great people and had to leave early because they were so good. Only the good die young. And I think that he remembers the lessons he learned as a youngster, and he takes those to the football field. From a technical point of view, he's got a great coach in Timmy Lester. One of the most underrated quarterbacks coach in the country, in my opinion. He's always on about getting his feet right, about his hand coming off before the routes opened and all those things, and I see him work at it. If you're diligent and you continue to work hard and you keep pounding that rock, eventually it's going to split right down the middle, and that's what I've seen with this youngster next to me. How about you? You want to add to that?
He's definitely on me a lot. Gets annoying at times, but the minute he stops, that's when I'm in trouble, So
that's right.
Definitely I would say I got better at leadership, not even on and off the field, learning how to, be the quarterback and not just a quarterback on the team, So really just the leadership and, learning my players around me who could do what, or, for instance, what can I do? I had to work on my long ball and started overthrowing guys, So it's all coming together as time, but it was a good experience and I'm ready to look forward.
Did you have a follow-up, sir? Then you.
Yeah.
How important was that not only to get you guys close to scoring position and win the game, so tie the game, but also from a play calling perspective and give you a little more flexibility?
I think it gave Coach McDonald a little more flexibility. Got two tough, hard-nosed South Florida Haitian kids in Richie Desir and Brisley Esteem. And it was a win-win situation deciding who was going to go back there. Brisley's, he's quick as a jitterbug, and we felt like maybe he'd give us a little something. And I thought it was a good call on Fred Reed's part, Tim Dow's part. Great decision to put him in. Believe in both he and Richie, but I do. I think it gave us momentum, a shorter field, an opportunity to get that ball down the field, so we didn't have to go as far as we did against BC.
All right, we're taking three more. One there, and one here. Sir?
Coach, if you can describe the emotions, the wave of emotions as that punt return, as that play developed.
It's emotional. When you get into the coaching, when you're in the middle of the game, though, you don't have as much time to get emotional unless there's a timeout and you're screaming at an official or something. In between, the few seconds before, the ball's kicked or the snap starts, you kind of just locked in, you're watching the play, and then you're trying to think of the next thing to do. For me, I'm not calling plays or defenses anymore. I'm just trying to keep them organized. Tell him not to yell at his tackle when he jumps off sides and stuff, right? Yeah. Stay steady and smooth. So for me, when you're kind of in the middle of the fight, you really don't have time to get too emotional. Then after the fact, that's when the emotions come, or between snaps, timeouts, that sort of thing.
Okay, over here.
Yeah, Terrell, this season you had a lot of critics. What you did today, what you did against BC, what did you tell the last couple games of the season?
I didn't really say nothing to him. When you start, going outside of your elements and just thinking about the people outside of our doors, that's when you start messing up. And Coach does a great job as, keeping everything in our family, because we're a tight-knit group, so everything just stays indoors. So they doubted us from the start. They said we were going to be in second to last place, and we ended up in third behind the two best teams. So when you start thinking about that, it tends to just drift away because has no meaning to you, basically. All you're worried about is your team and moving forward and what you could do at the next level.
Chris?
Scott, when you guys took a 14-3 lead, it looked like you turned to one of your assistants and said, "I owe you $50." Was that somebody making a good call, or what happened there?
I did. We had a situation where we were going to go 2 downs. We had 3rd down, and if we wouldn't have got the 1st down, it would have been, opportunity to go again. 4th and short, it would have been. But DeAndre said, "Shafe, you ain't got to worry about it. We're getting this 1st down." I said, "You promise?" Because we were doing a lot of promising today.
Yeah.
He goes, "I promise, Shafe." I said, I said, "I got $50. If you make it, I owe you. If you don't, you owe me." He goes, "I about won that bet right now." And yeah, it was a bet on the field. Can't take yourself too serious. Everything's overrated, except for the relationships we have with each other and that extended family that makes our bond as players and coaches just so sweet. It was a great opportunity today for our kids to make some memories, and they did. And what a great way for a young guy to send the seniors out with a victory, another victory, another bowl victory. Last year was a great victory at the Pinstripe Bowl with beating up on West Virginia and keeping that Schwartzwalder trophy. But it's nice to come down to Texas. They say don't mess with Texas. Well, don't mess with Syracuse in Texas is what we say. And just a great victory. So proud of these kids.
Coach, on behalf of everyone involved in the Texas Bowl, Terrell, congratulations on your MVP. Congratulations to you, Coach, in Syracuse on a great win. We'll have some players outside in the hallway. We'll have 4 others out there if you'd like to join us out there. Thank you all so much for your patience, and have a good evening.
Terrell Hunt apparently has got himself a souvenir, a little 10-gallon hat. How about that? Scott Shafer is now the 2nd coach since Ben Schwartzwalder arrived with a winning season in his debut season at Syracuse. So 2 coaches since Schwartzwalder. You know the other one?
Debut?
First season.
It wasn't Mac. It was Pasqualoni.
There it is. So Pasqualoni and Scott Shafer winning records in their first season at Syracuse. Only 2 guys since Ben Schwartzwalder arrived. So pretty good stuff for Shafer. 7-6. Syracuse finishes off the season. Their 3rd winning season in 4 years after 8 straight non-winning seasons. So perhaps there's some traction here. This program has turned the proverbial corner, and next year can take a shot at perhaps a run at the ACC championship. That is still to come, and we have more postgame here on the Orange and Texas postgame show when we come back.
The Orange in Texas is sponsored by Hyundai. Make the holidays shine even brighter now during Hyundai Holiday. And by Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% on car insurance. Visit geico.com or call 1-800-947-AUTO.
Syracuse has claimed its 15th bowl trophy, the Texas Bowl trophy, coming back from Houston after beating Minnesota 21-17, hanging on in the final seconds for the victory. 3rd straight win for the Orange football program in the bowl season. And now it's time to head down to Houston, Texas, and check in with Brian Sandler, who was on the field for this one. Brian, you have to tell us about this game in the final seconds, how dramatic that was. Had to be a thrill to be there to see it in person.
Oh, absolutely. And it was really kind of like Boston College all over again. It's tempting to say Boston College was the best game, best finish of the year. Obviously, they had to have it to get this far. But, man, this is a heck of a way to go into winter workouts, that is for sure. Terrell Hunt, the MVP, 262 total yards. I'll tell you what, if not for him, Brisley Esteem would have been the MVP here. The freshman with a huge game, 194 total yards. Obviously, the big return to set up the winning score, but he was all over the field. Kick returns, punt returns, receiving. He also had a rush, so he's really a guy. Coach has mentioned him throughout the years as a big piece for the future, and certainly we saw a big flash of that in this game. Some other thoughts, very chilly all week here really by Houston standards, but it actually felt a little warmer as the game started, and so that was nice for all of us. And fans, really, right before the game, we were all thinking that Minnesota was going to dominate the crowd, but really, I think Syracuse might have edged them by the end. And we were a little biased because we're on Syracuse's sideline, so we hear them more. But really, looking all around, it was probably pretty split, which is really apropos because Minnesota and Syracuse were so evenly matched coming in. Why wouldn't their fan bases be evenly matched as well? And Syracuse is actually flying back home tonight. They're probably not going to get into Syracuse until maybe 4 or 5 a.m., but certainly going out with a win like this makes that plane ride a whole heck of a lot nicer, guys.
Yeah, Brian, I'd have to imagine that plane ride home is going to be a great time. And Brian, if we can, I want you to talk a little bit about how the Syracuse defense got the ball back in the fourth quarter. After giving up the 2 touchdown plays, then they had to make the final stop for Syracuse to get it back after the missed field goal. A very nice stand by the SU defense, and they came through and it counted.
Yeah, all season long, the one side of the ball that SU's been able to rely on has been the defense. It was the offense that was always kind of struggling to find its way. But really, the last 2 games, I mean, if Terrell Hunt is not, obviously he's not going to be guaranteed anything going into next year, but he would have already had the advantage just based on experience. I have to think that's a huge advantage now. But as for the defense, all year long, they've really been a rock. And Minnesota came into this game averaging nearly 201 yards, rush yards per game. They were held to 127, which is just a little bit below what Syracuse has allowed defensively on average. And I don't know if you mentioned it already. If you have, though, it's worth mentioning again. David Cobb, Minnesota's top threat on the offensive side. He had 91 yards, which is right around his average, but by not getting 100, Syracuse goes the entire season not allowing a 100-yard rusher in any game, and they are the only Football Bowl subdivision team that can make that claim. So that is a big mark of pride for that side of the ball.
Yeah, definitely, Brian. Thanks very much. I appreciate it. Hope you warm up a little bit and, bring some of those 50s back from Houston. I mean, 50s sound pretty good up here, but, yeah, he's right. The defense has momentum going into next year. Terrell Hunt has momentum going into next year. A lot of good things to look forward to.
Yeah, I think that they've got a lot of things. We talked about winter workouts. The football season is going to start in a couple of weeks. I mean, in terms of lifting weights and getting back into that. So, yeah, they've got a lot of good things to work on.
And, Robert, you've been through this before where you come off a bowl win. And how much does that propel you into the offseason?
It propels you a lot, for the simple fact and the simple reason of you know what you're capable of. This team knows what they're capable of now, so they can expect nothing less. They need to go out there and be able to do everything and repeat what it is they did today. They know how to win coming from behind. They know how to win big, dramatic passing games. They know how to go out there and rely on their quarterback, basically get into that point. This team now is a special team, and I said that after the Boston College victory. The way they marched that down the field and scored that touchdown to get themselves into a bowl game, the way they went out here and got a punt return and basically controlled the ball to beat a good Minnesota team. It's a very special team, and they understand now it starts in the offseason, it starts in winter workouts.
And it's hard to quantify that because as good as that Boston College win was and as exciting as it was, had they not, A, even been invited to a bowl game, that kind of, fizzles, and B, had they not been able to pull this one out, that fizzles, and then you wonder about the confidence coming back.
Well, and this is a pretty good team. I mean, this team from beating Nebraska, I'm talking about Minnesota. They beat Nebraska, they beat Penn State. Now, Penn State's not what they used to be, but they beat us.
Yeah.
And they had some big wins, and they were 8-4, and obviously they were 4-point favorites. So that's got to do a lot for their confidence because they certainly exhibited the fact that they can hang with just about everybody except that top tier of Florida State, at least at this point.
Yeah, their last 3 bowl wins against Big 12, and Big 10. That's pretty good victims. Pretty good, flags to turn
Doesn't
upside
get much
down
better than that,
at the varsity. Time to go to the varsity and celebrate. All right, we will continue here on the Orange and Texas Bowl post-game show as we roll on here. And Terrell Hunt, the MVP of this one, redshirt sophomore, holding high the trophy in the 10-gallon hat. Looks pretty good, huh? Long New York kid, downstate kid. Think that's going to go over well in the Big Apple? All right, more to come here. One more time. Back after this.
The Orange in Texas. Honda starts something special. Great deal on the Honda. Now at your Honda dealer. Skinny Atlas Jewelry. Located in Skinny Atlas and and by the Bill Rapp Superstore. Make the smart choice. Shop the Bill Rapp Superstore.
We are back. Orange and Texas Bowl postgame show continues. Mark Larson, Dale Drypolcher, Robert Drummond, the MVP of the 1989 Hall of Fame Bowl. That's right. They still had bowls back then. Syracuse joins the ACC and ends up finishing, as they've said, behind Florida State and Clemson in their division. A 4-4 record in the ACC. And now they and Pittsburgh are both bowl winners for the ACC. 11 teams in, and they're off to a 2-1 start. That's pretty good stuff.
Well, two Big East teams, right?
Yeah, Big East.
I think one of the things under the radar here is they might get a few more season ticket holders coming out next year, because I think Coach Schaefer's always said that that's one of the things that he's been not concerned about, but one of the things he talked about early. Come on out and support us, and I think he's given them something to come out and support next year. And I think that they struggled a little bit with some people this year, getting people fannies in the seats, as they say. I think that's going to be a little easier sell next year.
Yeah, we saw Terrell Hunt with a 10-gallon hat. Robert, you talk about the confidence he gains from this, and he's the new sheriff in town now, and he knows it.
What a bright future for this team going forward. For the seniors, for the entire team, I'm very proud of the entire team. For the seniors, it's not an ending for you. It's a legacy you left behind. For the underclassmen that are coming back, it's a new beginning for you. You've been left in capable hands with capable coaches and the current players you have. So go out there and do your due diligence and do what you've learned from these upperclassmen. You've learned how to win. You learn how to fight. You learn how to scratch the ball and be a best possible football player you can possibly be. And that's one big advantage you can take from playing football.
And once you get the going, you don't want to be the class that lets it go. So now we've got 3 straight bowl victories in the last 4 seasons for this program, and the young guys, led by Terrell Hunt, are going to have to try and keep that going into 2014 when Syracuse will play its second season in the ACC. All right, a great week in Houston, Texas comes down to a terrific ending. Syracuse hangs on to beat Minnesota 21-17 to finish the season 7-6 and the Texas Bowl champions of 2013. Appreciate you watching. Hope you're having a great holiday week, as we are here as well. For Dale Drypolcher and Robert Drummond and the entire crew here, I'm Mark Larson saying so long. We'll see you again real soon. This has been a presentation of the Time Warner Cable Sports Channel.